Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the April 13, 2026 meeting of the Maitland City Council. Please help, etc. And if you'd like to speak at our speaking periods, please fill out our speaker form, and we will have your name and be able to put that correctly in the record. Let's begin this evening, as we typically do, with a brief moment of silence. Please join me. Thank you. And now, if you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. sir.
We're on to the consent agenda. Does anybody on the council wish to remove anything from the consent agenda this evening? Does any member of the public wish to comment on consent agenda items 2 through 5? Seeing none, let's close the public period, and motion would be in order.
I'll make the motion to approve the consent agenda for April 13th, 2026.
I'll second.
Okay, Mark, we have a motion and a second. Would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Guthrie.
Aye.
Councilmember Shaney.
Aye.
Councilmember French.
Aye.
Councilmember Randall.
Aye.
Mayor Lambert.
Aye. Okay, we have adopted the consent agenda. Let's have a public period where anybody, we have one taker already who has typewritten a speaker's card.
Wow.
All right.
Fancy.
Casey Larson, would you please come on?
They give them a new library and they get all fancy.
I know, I had a whole purse of them, so I don't have to remember in the last minute to scribble one out. Also that way Laura can read it. So again, I'm Stacy Larson. I'm the director of the Maitland Public Library. I have a couple of things I would like to invite y'all to. First, as you know, this year is the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. As I promised last summer, we are doing quite a lot of programming in honor of America 250, and we have a couple of those programs coming up. So I invite you tomorrow at 7 p.m. to hear Harry Rinker from the Sons of the American Revolution as he talks about flags of the American Revolution. And then on Thursday, April 23rd at 6:30, we will have a talk about women spies of the Revolution. So I'm looking forward to the spies. The next night, once we have finished with espionage, will be our annual poetry contest awards coffee house. This year's theme was In a Pickle. We received 114 poems in 4 age groups. So on Friday, April 24th at 6:30, we will be announcing the winners of all of our poetry prizes. So everyone is invited. It's a great night. It's definitely going to skew a little more humorous with the theme of In a Pickle. It's a really big deal. So I think you should all come.
It's a really big deal.
Withdraw your speaker card.
And I just want to say thank you all for coming on Tuesday, for organizing such a marvelous groundbreaking ceremony for the library. I thought city staff did an amazing job with that event, and it's just very exciting to finally see it coming to fruition. So thank you very much for that.
Okay, thank you, Stacy. Anybody else like to take this opportunity to address council?
Well, I can write out a card.
No, it's okay.
Oh, is it okay?
It's okay if you just give us your name and that'll be fine.
My name's Lori Dixon, and I'm with the Maitland Chamber of Commerce, and I am here to invite you guys to May 7th Wine and Cheese event, which is going to be May 7th, like I said, but it is across here, across Independence Lane at the Maitland City Center clubhouse, which we hold it there every year. But it's from 5:30 to 7:30, and you guys are all invited. And again, it is May 7th, and we'd love to have you guys attend. I don't know if any of you guys have been there before, but anyway, if you have any questions, you can reach out to me or check out the chamber website. But it's May 7th, and it's a Thursday night. Thanks.
Okay, great.
If I could, I just want to hit on that. I've attended many of these. It's great to get out and really meet, not only the citizens, but the business owners of Maitland and show our support and really, get them kind of jazzed up and show support to those guys. And it's a fun event.
Yeah, thank you. We'll have live music. It's a lot of fun.
Great.
Across the street.
MCC Clubhouse, May 7th. Thank you. Okay. Anybody else? Seeing none, let's close the public period.
One more people, person's entering.
That could be. Well, we're having a public period. I don't know if you're here for the public period, but no? Okay. All right, then we will now close the public period. Just want to make sure everybody got a chance. All right. We're on to decisions, and the first is a second reading, ordinance number 1455. Lori, would you please read the title?
Ordinance number 1455, an ordinance of the City of Maitland, Florida relating to the Land Development Code, amending Article 5 Development Standards to add Section 5.16, establishing a process for the review of reasonable accommodation requests for certified recovery residences pursuant to Florida Statute Section 397.487, providing for conflicts, providing for codification, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Okay, thank you. All right, Mr. Daniels, are you here to introduce it?
Yes, good evening. Mike Daniels with the Community Development Department, here to present staff comments for ordinance number 1455 regarding the certified recovery residences. As we discussed during the first reading, pursuant to Senate Bill 954, the state has mandated that all local governments establish a process for the review and approval of certified recovery residences, and as part of that, to include the ability to request reasonable accommodations from any local land use regulation. As we discussed at the last meeting, pursuant to how our code is currently written, which allows 5 unrelated persons to live in one unit, and we categorize that as allowable within a single-family dwelling unit. The first part of the requirement the city already meets, so the ordinance is really focused on providing a process for the applicant to be able to apply for a reasonable accommodation. That request would come to the Community Development Department. Staff would review based on the following criteria. Number one, identifying that they are meeting the definition of disabled or handicapped, that the request is reasonable in order to provide an equal opportunity to use the residence, that this wouldn't impose an undue financial hardship to the city, and that it wouldn't fundamentally alter the nature of the city's regulations. So after going through those criteria, the Community Development Department will issue a determination to either approve, deny, or approve with conditions. If it is denied, the applicant has the ability to appeal that decision to the city manager. We also included a section on revocation. So, for example, if an applicant is approved for a reasonable accommodation request, every year they have to prove again that they're still a certified recovery residence, and they have to make sure that they are in compliance with any conditions that were approved as part of the process. One change we made from the first reading that the city attorney had brought up, we had initially required that annually the applicant has to provide that by October 31st of each year. In order to be consistent with the end of our fiscal year, we changed that to September 30th. Other than that, staff is recommending approval, and I'd be happy to answer any questions they may have.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Does anybody have any questions, Mike?
I've got one, and again, you may have discussed this last time when I was out, but so when these homes, single-family homes, are designated for certified recovery residences, do they have to meet ADA standards at that time? Are they modified at that point? Because it's going to be people using it that may not be fully functioning.
Well, so basically, they have to prove that they're disabled or handicapped, but again, the definition of a certified recovery residence is someone who's recovering from drugs or alcohol. They're basically getting treatment for that, so they don't necessarily have to make it handicap accessible as long as they meet that definition. Okay. So again, theoretically, it could be that they're requesting a reasonable accommodation for that type of issue. At the same time, it could be that they don't need a handicap ramp because none of the members of the unit are handicapped in terms of, from a physical ailment or anything, as much as it is just the fact that they are addicted to drugs and alcohol. So it really totally depends on the situation.
So if they're modifying the residence and come in for a permit, we're not meeting ADA standards because it's going to be a public kind of facility?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's not a public facility. I mean, it would be a certified recovery residence, but they wouldn't have to meet specific ADA requirements. It would be more a situation if they came in and said, you know, in order to have a, you know, a reasonable use of the property, we need to have 5 bedrooms. That means we have to add on, let's say, to an additional bedroom, and now we're going to encroach into a setback, for example. That could be an example of where they may ask for a reasonable accommodation. But again, you know, and obviously our city attorney can weigh in, but it's so broad, we really don't have, until somebody applies for one, we really don't know exactly what it would entail.
And that certified recovery residence designation, that's coming from the state. So as to how the property is functioning and their licensure, that will be between them and the state. Our role is to make sure that we have a process for those reasonable accommodations, should there be a need. And I do agree with the comment that actually the reasonable accommodation, it's almost the reverse of your question. It's actually, if there were a need for that access, that could be the trigger for the reasonable accommodation of those.
Okay. Is that it, Bill? Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Okay. Does anybody from the public have any comment on this proposed ordinance? Open it up to the public. And seeing none, let's close the public comment period. And if there's no further discussion, a motion will be in order.
Right, I would move that we approve the second reading of ordinance number 1455, amending the Land Development Code text to establish a process to review reasonable accommodation requests for certified recovery residents.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Lori, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Randolph.
Aye.
Councilmember Shaney.
Aye.
Councilmember Guthrie.
Aye.
Councilmember French.
Aye.
Mayor Reynolds.
Aye. Okay, that's the ordinance. Now we have another second reading, ordinance number 1457. Lori, would you please read that ordinance title?
Ordinance number 1457, an ordinance of the city of Maitland, Florida, amending the Maitland Land Development Code based on the adopted 2050 Comprehensive Development Plan. Area-based amendments to eliminate all references to downtown Maitland Land Development District, including the Density Incentive Community Enhancement Program known as DICE, downtown Maitland PD Edge, and modifying downtown Maitland intensity and dimensional standards to reflect density and floor area ratio consistent with the 2050 CDP. And more particularly described as follows: Table of Contents, Article 1, General Provisions, Article 2, Administration, Article 3, Zone Districts, Article 4, Use Regulations, Article 5, Development Standards, providing for conflicts, severability, and an effective date.
Okay, thank you, Lori. And Mr. Daniels, are you here to introduce the item?
I am. Again, as we discussed, again, during the first first reading, essentially this amendment is to implement the approved amendment to the city's comprehensive plan that was adopted back on November 10th, which was focused on the Main Street future land use designation, and which leads to the downtown Maitland zoning district, whereby the density and intensity requirements were revised, allowing a maximum of 67 units per acre and a 3.0 floor area ratio for all parcels regardless of size, and proposing the elimination of the DMPD and DMPD edged zoning districts, as well as the elimination of the DICE program. So the main reason for the elimination of the DMPD and EDGE is that those were required as part of the DICE program. So essentially this ordinance isn't making any changes from what was approved with the comprehensive plan. It's just making sure that our land development code is consistent with the comprehensive plan amendment that was adopted back on November 10th. So with that, staff is recommending approval, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions like on this issue?
I don't really have a question, but I just want to say, you know, the DICE program, we really came out and tried something with that, and it didn't succeed to what we hoped. But at least we got out there in front of it and tried something, you know. As somebody once told me, always try to be a trendsetter, never a trend follower, and that's what we did here in Maitland. We tried something new, and I commend, you know, staff for trying it and everything, so, but yeah, that's all I have to say.
Okay. Thank you, Vince. Anybody else, any other questions? Okay, let's open it up to the public for any public comment. If anybody has any comment on this item, please step up and let us hear about it. All right, seeing none, let's close the public comment period. And if there's any further discussion, we should have it, or if not, maybe a motion would be in order.
Okay, I'll move to approve on second and final reading ordinance number 1457, amending the land development code to change downtown Maitland zone district density and intensity requirements in the downtown Maitland zone district, and to eliminate the downtown Maitland land development PD zone district, DM-PD Edge, and the DICE program to conform with the newly adopted comprehensive development plan update as presented.
Second.
Okay, we
That
have
was a little shorter, Scott.
I didn't see anyone else rushing.
No, nobody jumping out of that one.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Lauren, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Guthrie.
Aye.
Councilmember French.
Aye.
Councilmember Randolph.
Aye.
Councilmember Shady.
Aye.
Mayor Lo.
Aye. Okay, we have another new ordinance. And we're on to our third item for the evening for the decisions, Citizens Advisory Board. And we tabled this last time because Bill Randolph wasn't with us at the time, and we wanted to have a fuller discussion with him here. So let's do what we did last time, and Mr. Guthrie, if you want to.
Yeah, I'd love to. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, you know, I really looked at three areas with our boards that are our primary boards for citizen participation. That's the Lakes Board, Parks and Rec, and our TAB, Traffic Advisory Board. And I just kind of went through it. I don't know what the rest of y'all did. I know there was some homework, so let's go through and see where we can do improvements and really get people more active and participating, and kind of hoping that steers them other than, you know, just kind of meeting a few times a year and feeling like you're not really getting into something. And I went through them all, and I looked at the bylaws and the constitutions, and I looked at what the functions in the constitutions were, and I have some suggestions for each one. So I'd just like to go through those, and I don't need to go first. I'm happy to let Mr. Randolph, and then we can work this way, or however you'd like to do it, Mr. Mayor. But, you know, maybe if we wanted to start out with whichever board, PRAB, or I don't really care.
Okay. Well, let's just ask Mr. Randolph, do you have any particular concerns about this item, or any way you'd like to see this discussed?
No, I think if Vance wants to start out and give us his list, I mean, I've got a list that I did. They might be similar, who knows, but.
I think I scared staff when I came in with this today, so it's not that bad. Sure. What do I have here? All right. Parks and Rec, let's start with Parks and Rec. So I was looking at the Constitution and Section B, Article 2, and you know, it lists a few things, but there's only really like 6 items on there. It's kind of generic, but some of the items that I thought in my head that I wrote down was, you know, to, like, for number 5, maybe add promotion of new ideas, new or alternative uses of our parks, and, you know, let them come up with ideas instead of just coming through the same thing that we're doing all the time. Really get those people involved. Also, help them with part of when we do our get down downtowns or any kind of other events, that maybe, you know, they can come up with ideas to help promote the parks and the things that go on in the parks, and other ideas to really be kind of hands-on and be out there with the other citizens And I don't know, that's farmer market, get downtown, all the events. And what I'd really like to see, and this really goes for all of these boards, is I really like them to vet stuff before it comes to us, because it really seems like a lot of times people just bring stuff to us. You know, I'd really like them to be able to go through the process, and I think not only does that keep it from coming to us. I remember one time there was a complaint with on Lake Faith about somebody with a jet ski towing their kid, and they wanted to make a rule, and I said, well then, you know, we were like, well then you got something difficult because half that lake's Seminole. So you need to go to Seminole County, get them approve it, then come back to us and we approve it. And they were like, never mind. So, I mean, it just died there. It never came to us. So, I think if they could vet stuff more in what they do, it would, one, be helpful to us to eliminate that process, but two, it also would give them the experience in how the city runs and why we do what we do and what the rules are and stuff like that. And I feel like it used to really be that. And I feel like now just people come to us and bypass those boards. So I'd like to see them really kind of more vet the situation. Also, this is a kind of a question, Mark, is do we have an orientation packet or that we do with all the parks? Do we give an orientation? Like, you know, when you start a new job, you get walked through the job and they're like, here's this, and this.
Yes. Yeah, we provide them information on the background. From a PRAB standpoint, Jay offers to meet with them individually. Some new board members don't want to meet with the board liaison, but offers to meet with them to go over plans we have in place, our capital projects, where we're going, master plans, like pet master plan, park master plan, things like that, so they can know the work that's done before.
Yeah.
They can pick that up.
And I just want to make sure
that for all boards, TSB
Yeah.
and LAB also.
Yeah, and I didn't see that in there, so that's why I kind of brought it up. I asked the question because
It's more
you know,
administrative.
Yeah, administrative, but I'd like to see that in there. Yeah, I mean, I really want them just to give ideas on how to promote Parks and Rec, promotion of citizen participation in recreation and park programs, distribution of information about leisure activities offered by the city, especially, you know, I mean, out there at Mayo, that's a great example. There's so many things that happen out there, but nobody really knows about it. So if we could, you know, all these activities that we do provide, really get out there and let people know. And like I said, for them also, just review things before they're brought to council.
You know, what you just said there and following up Mark, that they offer that, and it's up to the board member to accept, to do an onboarding kind of credit. I guess, to me, for them to be effective, they need to do that. I don't know if we can mandate that or make a strong recommendation, but if you're going to volunteer for one of these boards and then you're not going to want to know the inner dealings of how the master plan is set up and what the parks, you're falling short. I think that's a responsibility of a board member to be engaged.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, to me, in my mind, that it would be, oh, Jay, can you do this? No, I don't want to do it. I think it should almost be a mandatory thing that they have to sit through some kind of presentation so that they understand what the role of their duties are and what's been done already and planned. And I agree. I also had down here that I think they need to be the sounding board for assessing the parks for the future. Is this use getting a lot of use, or is it something we need to look at? What are the trends going forward? Because that, you know, if we need to change something, that's the time, that's the board that needs to be looking at that, going like, hey, you know, this park over here is very underutilized because we don't have this there. Maybe that kind of stuff needs to be looked at more than anything else.
Yeah. And that's kind of when I went, like, new ideas, new alternative ideas, things like that. Because if you keep doing the same program over and over and over, it's kind of boring and tiresome, you know. So, an example we do for my St. Andrews group, we do pub night. Like, all right, we've done the same pub night every night. We got to change it up. Same thing, you know, we got to give people something fresh and new. So, is that kind of where you're going?
Yeah.
Yeah. I would ask everybody, how do you all feel about discussion on the orientation?
I think it's a great idea. I mean, I think that yeah, anybody who comes onto that board, or any board that deals with, you know, how the city functions, I mean, I would imagine they do get some kind of an orientation on what the master planning is, and what the 5-year plan is, you know.
And we send them all the information, so the information is available to them, and then the board liaison offers to meet with them. So if you're a reader, or being presented to, you can read all the information, you have it available. If you want to mandate an orientation, there would have to be a penalty for not attending the orientation, and so you would lose your seat on the board for not attending.
Well, I guess you would have the orientation at the meeting, scheduled meeting, right? Or you do
The first meeting?
yeah. And then, so, you know, just go through the orientation. And I think a lot of people, when they get, if they're just handed a binder and they say, here, you know, kind of read up on it, then, you know, they're not likely to.
And we just say we don't do that, we offer them to come in.
Right.
The board liaison does offer to meet with them.
Right. And they get the information, and then, you know, so there is some expectation that they'll do the reading. But it certainly wouldn't hurt to have, you know, a walkthrough of how Jay arranges, you know, the master plan, and how, you know, what the different steps are, and what the different entry points for people to comment are, and what the purpose is. I mean, to do that, you know, seems like that's a good idea. Say for lakes or, you know, whatever. But is that?
Well, I want to ask this. So the thing is, if we don't have it in writing, I mean, it doesn't have to be mandatory. We don't have to use the word mandatory, but, you know, to, however you want to say, attend an orientation, you know, but if it's not written, it has no teeth. So, I mean, you're just kind of like, it's not there. So it doesn't exist. So, you know, those things that we need to look to put in here, so people are like, all right, this is what I have to do, you know.
Well, kind of, you know, what we do on council, we have a new council come in every year, and we have a strategic planning session, right? And where the kind of new council people and the old council walk through the entire process, and they get, you know, kind of an update on how the departments are organized, what the departments do, what the department budgets are. And this would be, I think what you're suggesting, something like that. You know, you have a Parks and Rec board, you know, as soon as they're appointed, the first regular meeting after the appointment, you know, that meeting will be dedicated, not dedicated, but at least part of it will be dedicated to kind of walking through what's expected of you with the Parks board, and what you can do with the Parks board. Right? It's kind of, you know, some people, you know, depending on your personality, you may not want to raise your hand, you know, you may not want to ask the questions. But if you have a presentation, feel more welcome and empowered that way. So I mean, that seems to me, and we appoint on a regular basis, right? The terms are, we're trying to get it such that the terms are ending at a certain point in
Yes,
the
it will be
year, January. So, I mean, it seems to me that could be done. You have the first meeting in February is the organizational meeting. So that's
I think that's a brilliant idea. I really like that, because you can also have the discussion of, hey, what do we want to get done this year? We have something we really want to do, we want to see, you know. So I don't think it's bad. It won't take like, you know, 3 or 4 hours like we do. So,
right.
Is there some way we could implement that idea?
Yeah, that would be a pretty simple amendment to the bylaws. The annual, at their first meeting of the year, they select officers, and put that into that section. They select officers, and they're provided orientation at that meeting. But clear that up.
Yeah, and just kind of run through, I don't know, Jay could have a 5-slide deck or something and say, this is how we operate.
Yep.
This is what we expect,
And this is where we're hoping to go.
Yeah. And I'm with the mayor. I like that for all the boards. So I think it's a good thing. You know, and at that same time, I guess is when you can bring on your wine and cheese. Bring on your president, your new chair and vice chair.
So what, as I'm looking at the Constitution of the Parks and Rec Board, and it's got 6 items. Vance, what were you suggesting that we add to that?
So on 5, and I don't know if it kind of really goes to 5, but I threw it in there. Promotion of ideas, new or alternative uses. And I'm not a wordsmith, so you gotta apologize the rust on my presentation. But then 6, helping promotion of park activities and review items before received to city council.
And so, Mark, you can ask this question, and you, I'm sure will have the answer. Not Jay. The park master plan. What is the public input process to that? I mean, the first or the third item here, rather, is in the Constitution. It's kind of a tortured sentence, which looks like it's responding to something that went wrong one time. But
What that is trying to say is that as parks go through the development review process, the PRAB gets the first bite of the apple before it goes to planning and zoning commission or city council. They get to review it like they did with Quinstrong, the rehab of Quinstrong. That went to PRAB twice. Once in the preliminary stage, and then it came to you for review with their recommendations. Second time, construction plans went to them prior to coming to the city council for final approval. So it just says they get the first bite of the apple when it comes to parks that are included in the master plan, which is all the parks in the city. We're doing the park project, they get the first bite of the apple.
yeah. So looking at this, I mean, it looks like to me, I know that we had a lot of discussion for years trying to find new parks and new areas to dedicate, especially on the west side. There was kind of the hunt for land on the west side was something that consumed a lot of staff and council time for years. And it looks like there are several, seems to be something that is kind of aimed at that. It talks about any land dedication resulting from development for purpose of park use as defined. So it's the dedication that is subject to review and comment, rather than kind of what the actual plan is all about. And maybe that's what it means to say, or maybe that's not what it means to say. But then the next one also goes into the board shall review, comment, recommend on issues relative to recreation parks and conservation land acquisition or disposal. So it also seems to be aimed about land acquisition and disposal. That's what, and I know again, because this is something that, you know, when we got the Maitland Park, I mean, that was a big deal, and you know, how it was going to be zoned and used and, you know, purchased and, you know, gotten. It went on for a while. So that seems to be part of this, and then the west side issues that I was talking about. So there's less in here about kind of current use of public land than there is about acquiring land. And let's talk about how we're going to acquire land. These are just my observations on what this, if I had to do an autopsy on this Constitution, that's what it looks like to me. And so I think what Vance, you're asking, and what Bill, you're talking about is, you know, can we update this to have it less intensively focused on what happens when we acquire land or dedicate land, and talk about how those dedications work. more so on current use of current property and involving people generally, right? So, I mean, there can be certainly I think there would be improvements to the language in this Constitution to accommodate that, which would not, I mean, it would encourage more public input and more public debate about things. Because again, when we're talking about review and comment, this is the Parks and Rec Board is going to review and comment on things about land acquisition and disposal. It's going to comment on the land dedication. That's what's subject to review prior to the land.
That's the typical dedication of land and new development, which is unlikely to happen.
Yeah, we're kind of past that, I think. Yeah. And then the fifth one is just about the user fee structure. And so there's really not much more about, then there's really, you could argue there's really nothing here about, other than reviewing the five parks capital improvements plan. There's really not anything here about promotion of current uses or discussion of current uses or that kind of thing. So, I mean, I agree it could be updated to recommend that and make it more of a discussion zone. So, having said that,
Here's a thought on that last point. Would it, or just kick the idea around, rather than trying to say, we're trying to improve the list by adding things to the list, right? Is it a better improvement to simply consolidate with the council the authority to delegate other items as assigned by the city council? So that, 2 years from now, the list we're talking about today might be irrelevant 2 years from now, there might be other things we want to do. And having that catch-all in there gives this body the ability to say, hey, let's kick this to parks.
I think that's what 6 is attempting to do,
Yeah.
but not explicitly like you see in some of the other constitutions, where it basically says the city council can ask the board to review something. I think we talked about the TAB already a couple times this year. Just a little less artfully and less directly.
okay.
An example of what I was talking about, Mayor, is that you bring up the west side. It's like we've talked about the soccer program. It's kind of waning. Here we have this big soccer field over there. How frequently is it being used? What's it costing to maintain it? And an example is we've always looked on that west side to find a piece of property that could be a west side park. So if soccer, and I can't say soccer is declining or expanding. I mean, Little League was talked about, but it seems to be resurrected now. So these things ebb and flow pretty quickly. But is it a trend line that soccer is going to wane in Maitland to the point where we've got whatever that is, 4-acre park over there, sitting fallow, and nobody's using it, but we're maintaining it? Is there another alternative use that can be used? That's one of the things that I think that PRAB needs to look at is what do they think the future is going to hold? And do we need to change some of the uses up?
Yeah.
And I think those are the things that appropriately come from the city council versus them having them randomly decide uses should change in parks. That should be more of a top-down versus a bottom-up.
That actually ties in with the conversation that we had in planning this month. The planning board has some items that they're taking a look at, and it kind of came to that point in the meeting of, okay, what's next? And the comment back and forth was, well, probably this ought to go to the council to see if it's something the council has an interest in. And then we explained, there was not pushback to that, but just but we're in charge. Yes, you are, but you don't want to spend a bunch of hours in meetings and spend a bunch of staff time on something that council, that's done on arrival when it gets to council. So even if the top-down approach is a very brief 5-minute meeting in council where council says, yes, let's kick this to the board, at least that the board knows they're working on something that the council has an interest in, because the problem, not a problem with the reality of boards, is yes, we want to empower them, but if we empower them without direction, that can turn into wasted time for everybody. So I think that keeping it, even if it's a very brief meeting, keeping the directions flowing down from council keeps everybody focused on what's benefiting the council. At the end of the day, you guys have to make the ultimate decision on do we follow that direction or not.
Yeah, that's a good. I mean, that's a good example and a good point. And going back to the strategic planning meeting that we have every year, and have one again in a couple of months. That's been an item that we brought up. I mean, it's like, what's the inventory of our public land? And that, Lake Destiny Field is just not being used right now. And the idea of, are we getting the best use out of Keller Field as well? I mean, maybe we are, maybe we're not, but it's a question that should be asked. And we could, under number 6 here, the board shall perform other duties, the board being the PRAB, shall perform other duties which may be lawfully assigned to it. I don't think we'd be breaking the law by asking them their opinion on what we should do with Lake Destiny and come up with some ideas, because we do think about it in strategic planning, and we kind of kick it around, but then we have 100 other things to think about too. And if you have a PRAB who are interested in all things parks and rec, you give them some license to go out there and brainstorm on that, figure out something out, and with Jay's guidance, kind of figure out, what might be a useful, a doable thing with that. So we can do that under the current Constitution, and I think we probably should. But I think there are also probably, some ways to kind of improve the language that's here now to encourage more independent thought by but I don't have any language to suggest right now, but it's certainly something to look at.
I'm going to throw this out, just might not catch it all, but should the chair of each of these boards come to council, I don't know, whenever, the date doesn't matter, and give a presentation to council about what they're doing, and then kind of say, is there anything that, you guys have you would like us to review? So there's still communication between the boards and the council. Because right now, I mean, we haven't heard anything from these boards. So I don't know, if, like, even if it's a 5-minute, like you're saying, even if it's 5 minutes, it's like, hey, here's what we're doing on PRAB, and this, they've met already, that this is their vision, here's our update, this is where we're at. And then while they're there, that gives council an opportunity to say, well, can you reflect about this, or maybe take this back to review. But it opens up that communication between the two.
Right. I think that's a good idea. I don't know that we need to put it in the charter or the Constitution, but it'd be kind of a standing invitation, just like Lori has given us this great invitation for the wine and cheese things back, and have, invite the PRAB president to come or chair to come, and we won't give them any wine and cheese or anything, but we'll make them stand up at the podium and speak publicly, as people often hate. But it'd be a good invitation to say, this month we'll do PRAB, next month we'll do LAB, next month we'll do whatever. Just have that 5 minutes, or let them talk, and we can ask them questions. I mean, it would open up an avenue directly to them that we don't currently have. I don't know that's a charter issue, but it's a Constitution issue. But it could be an invitation, and that way we would dovetail it in with the agenda being set by the mayor and the city manager, and they can figure out when it fits on the schedule, when it fits.
You don't think that would go under the bylaws of the responsibilities of the chair?
We could put the responsibility that they should come when summoned, I guess, but it really is kind of up to the council to ask them to come.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we would be putting that obligation on ourselves to set that schedule. And, we can do that by resolution, or we can do it by, just agreement. We can just have it kind of a tradition in Maitland that in February is board month or something like that, and the chairs all come and one after another take their public meetings, and that'll be something we would do.
Yeah,
I like that idea. I mean, I think it will give them again, an avenue to direct access to us, and everybody on the board can ask a question, and that's good.
yeah, and I think I've had. It's kind of like, I think we really funneled this into one idea for everybody. Like I went through and I'm like, oh, well, this needs to be done, this needs to be done, this needs to be done. But, you know, Drew's kind of brought it to, you know, kind of give them that avenue and stuff, but, yeah, I have some stuff for lakes also, so.
All right. Does anybody else have anything on PRAB that they want to discuss?
You know, I think there's probably a couple other things that'll be coming before then. I guess our signage program for Lake Lily really should be introduced to them too. We're kind of like, although Jay's here, so he hears what we're talking about on the new signs. But I don't know if PRAB needs to get in that process.
I think that ship has sailed.
Okay.
I'm not sure, don't ask for input unless you know what that input's going to be, and that sign has been ordered.
Okay.
Well, going forward, it's not a bad idea.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So like today, I think we all got email, that just came to me and Jay and Mark, from somebody in the public, an email. They sent us a picture of something from the Winter Park Parks and Rec board. Just a little, yard sign type thing. It says, help shape the future of our parks, share your ideas to be part of the Winter Park Parks and Rec master plan. So there's a public workshop for their master plan. And that's great. I mean, that invites public participation.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, we did that 2 years ago.
yeah, I see the QR code on there.
We did our recreation needs survey. They're sort of picking up where we left off.
Okay.
And they're echoing that. They've kind of, or at least Michelle contacted us to talk about what we did there, and so they're okay with that.
Okay, so they're copying us. That's great.
Yeah, we did that, 2 years ago. So
Yeah. So, yeah, we did, I mean, yes, we did a lot of that. Thank you for reminding me of that. The survey, in-depth survey, we paid, it was a pretty good review of not just people, we went out and polled people, but they went.
PRAB was heavily involved in that.
Yeah. Okay.
What's the frequency of our master plan updates? Every 10 years?
Every 10 years, we're taking a look at that right now. There comes a point when you get into just a maintenance mode, though, and I think we're quickly approaching that. As you recall, our last Parks and Rec master plan there was no Independence Square. Fort Maitland was old Fort Maitland, not new Fort Maitland. Hill Rec, which is an open field, and we can make some improvements there. That was part of the master plan. So the way the master plan works is sort of recycling projects as we had money, because we were flush with cash in the Parks Trust Fund at that time, so we needed to spend that money. That's impact fee money that needed to be spent. So we used that on Independence Square, Fort Maitland Park, and a couple other parks, and then you start back at the beginning and go back to the first parks you did, which was like in this case would be Lake Minnehaha Park, where we did the playground there, and you go back and refreshing everything through the process, because we don't have the ability to create new land in the city. Our parks are what they are, so you can go back and start addressing the capital plan to refresh or expand facilities that are in existing parks. So that's kind of where we're at right now, from a park standpoint, working back through that process. You have to have money to do that, though, and as you see from the we rely heavily on Parks Trust Fund money for years to make those improvements. That money is for the most part completed, so now we're funding that through the general fund, there's more competition for general fund money. That's just factual.
part of that plan, do they give suggestions on how to fund your parks?
No, that's up to the city council. There are costs associated with what those are, but it's up to the city council to decide what they're going to fund and how they're going to fund it.
Okay. Did you have some LAB?
Yeah. I just saw some things that I kind of remember that we used to review, and I just kind of wanted to throw them out there. But it used to be, I know now it's pretty much like just stormwater quality. But I mean, we used to do anything that was in the 100-year flood line that was reviewed by LAB. So if anybody was built, not docks, but there was new apartments or anything like that was coming in, and they were encroaching in that area, then it would be reviewed by LAB. Because that still, a lot of people don't really recognize that in that 100-year flood line, you have a transition period of, animals, fish, frogs, whatever it is, and different kind of style that you do on your upper side, where it's always consistently dry. So some of the other things that we used to look at was like, in this same thing, shoreline modification, shoreline restoration, shoreline alterations. We used to look at the seawalls, if the seawalls were up there. Lake and waterway improvements, water quality is still there. And they may do aquatic plant management. What are we spraying? Where are we spraying? Are we putting in new plants? What's going on with our lakes? Are we getting a lot of invasives? But just the upkeep with that. And I think they still do this, stormwater fees. So those were just the ideas. I was sitting there, I was like, what did we really used to talk about it? Because it used to be, if there was a bubbler coming in, like how do we improve Lake Jim and Lake Park Lake and all those, So those are kind of the ideas I had on that. But I think maybe, I don't know if those are things that we put in the Constitution. But those are things I know we used to review.
We did review boat docks at one point, and we also helped write the boat dock ordinance. Drew will remember that whole issue because it went a little sideways.
Is that the one on Lake Jackson problem?
Yes. So it got sidelined a little bit there on that until that was solved. But the Lakes Board did play a bigger role in a lot of those activities back then. And that was a time period when we were developing the first Stormwater Lakes Management Plan. So there was a lot of hands-on activity with our consultant reviewing things almost on a monthly basis. Again, I think that board needs to vet technology, and I know I talked to the city manager today about what are the extensive winter parks contract for our lakes, and it's really the chain of lakes. So, there's hydrilla in Lake Sibilia. How do we treat that? Do we, treat it chemically? I know the lake rate was brought to my attention recently, and it's great to have technology, but as I talked to the city manager, well, that's one aspect of the technology. I'm not sure how it's used, if it's pulled. I think Winter Park had a barge or whatever that they did a lot of harvesting with. So do we have the wherewithal that we could have something like that? Do we have the vessel to pull it? Do we have the staff to maintain and use that equipment? So what are the overall costs of doing something like that? That to me is something that the LAB would bring forth. They would analyze it and look at it, and if it's a reasonable thing, they could bring forth to the city council to see about putting it into the budget.
I know they have like a boat machine that goes out there and picks up, then puts it on the barge.
They have much bigger staff and capability of doing that. That's why I think we've always contracted with them to do the chain.
Yeah, but I mean, we have 22, 23 lakes.
Yeah.
I don't think it all depends on the day. So, we're a quarter of lakes. So I see this being a quarter water, 6 square miles and a quarter of it's water. So our water quality is great, but you still need that kind of management and education of what's going on, and just to be a little more open of what's happening in the city and knowledgeable, and being able to go out to your community and share that, and say this is why you're doing it. Because I know I live on a lake, and I have to go educate people all the time, because they come from Michigan where the water temperature never gets above 55. And it's totally two different worlds. you know, and they go out there and want to just rape their lake and take all the plants out, so.
And just to let you know, our lake staff does keep LAB informed of what our operational issues are, our spraying, the issues that come up in the lakes, how they're addressing them. Every other month, they are given a water quality report. That's when they come in. So we provide that information to them on a regular basis, so they can know what's going on and how that money's being spent. And then, of course, they review the capital plan also, and make those recommendations on capital improvements.
Yeah, do they, do they deal with like plant management? Do they give them a report on like, you know, oh, we're installing these plants over here, we have the, you know, again, the hydrant in place, want to get that out?
Yeah, when we're doing it, you know, that our lakes maintenance staff aren't doing a lot of shoreline planting, we've done it in the past, but when we do it, we let LAB know what's going on, and then we promote it and put it out there, so everyone knows what's going on, but yep, lake staff keeps LAB pretty well informed on everything.
Yeah, and another thing we did is, I was talking about this with PRAP, is like 2 years in a row we did this, and we didn't do it anymore after that, but we used to go out, and I think we spent a day on Lake Lily and had like a little table and a booth, and LAB would go out there and help. I know that the lakes people still do this, but get LAB involved, you know, get them out there to meet with the citizens, give out the information, get them interested. Nobody's going to sell LAB better than a member of LAB. So, you know, it might get them and other people interested in joining. So,
that's part of the public information, the public involvement part of what LAB is already charged with doing, and we do a lot of that with our lake cleanups, where Jory's out there. The LAB is always invited, and, you know, a lot of times members show up. It's a matter of function and personality of the board members, whether they show up to do those things. And when we have events out here, like Earth Day, lakes are going to be out there. The board members will be allowed to, or invited to come out to join them in the tent. But if they don't, we have a professional staff to back them up, so we know someone will be there to provide that information. And enjoys. I mean, if you haven't met, you know, Jory yet, the sort of, you know, face, she truly loves what she does. She's really energetic and really into it, and she's really a good face of our.
Yeah, but I think back to it, I think, you know, if we look at this and say, you know, what's your strategic plan? Meet for a strategic plan, and then, you know, a couple months later, do an update to city council. I think that'll cover everything, because, you know, they'll come up with their own plans, their own wants to do. You know, let's do some promotion. I mean, that's just me sitting here thinking, if you have you know, is it 5 or 7 still on the board? 7 people there. They'll brainstorm some ideas. So I think, you know, we could probably deal with all this with just saying that's the way to go. Let's create a strategic, you know, planning session, and then do a report to council, you know, halfway through the year.
So looking at the constitution of the LAB here, unlike Parks and Rec, the constitution is very narrow. This is wide open.
Yeah.
This is like, it does everything you said, man. So that,
Yeah.
I don't think there's any, not a matter of constricted duties, it's
Right.
just a matter of, you know,
That's what, yeah, that's why I go back to, I think if we do you know, on the board just come up with a strategic planning session and then report once a year to us, I think that would help generate more things for them to do.
okay.
Too.
Okay. All right. So the other one is TAB?
Yeah, TAB, I think it's the same thing, like what areas do we want to focus on? I know that, and I haven't talked to Mark about this, and Mark, sorry if I overstep, but I know that, you know, with Independence coming in, and how close it is to the light, how do we get people safely back and forth? How do we get the traffic safely back and forth? How do we control it? So, you know, for them to look at it, I know we're getting ready to do the study, I believe, right, Mark? Aren't we doing?
We're getting,
A
we're on
DOT.
we're on the verge of construction of Independence Lane.
Right, but I'm just saying, aren't we doing like a, isn't FDOT board?
Oh, no,
Downtown.
the MPO is assisting us with the downtown mobility study, and so they are looking at Packwood, George, and the intersection of Packwood here to go over to the library, and the intersection of George at the post office for safety improvements.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, I can see that being problematic also, trying to get people from that side of the road to this side of the road. And I mean, if it's connecting, we're gonna have that flow, right?
Ratio?
No, independent.
And the ratio, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, that intersection's already designed, and that will be under construction in the next few weeks, hopefully.
Yeah, I can see people not going down to Horatio, they're gonna cut straight across here. You know, but just that, those kind of discussions, I think, are really good. Because you can't really put in another light because it's so close to 1792, right? Sorry, I said Horatio, I didn't mean that, I meant 1792.
Yeah, there's no
We're not
opportunity.
gonna go down to the light at 1792.
No opportunity for a traffic signal at
Yeah.
Independence.
But no, I'm back to it. I think if, you know, we kind of came up with this idea of just doing this strategic plan and then a report to council, and at that time, you know, council can say, we want you to look at this, this, and this, or they can kind of tell us about what their concerns are.
And you'll get that report, that is not a TAB issue, that was been assigned to the ad hoc.
Oh, right, with the Packwood and
It's
everything.
basically,
That's the ad hoc.
The old TAB.
Yeah.
Is acting as the ad hoc, so they'll be
Yeah.
making those recommendations to you April, May-ish. We're wrapping that up right now.
Do we get our groundbreaking shovels out again soon?
Independence Lane.
All right.
Probably won't be as grand as the library, but where your work would just, be prepared to be slightly disappointed.
Yeah. So I just want to open it up and say, what does everybody else think about the idea? I mean, really, Mayor, you kind of came up with it, the whole, you know, kind of meeting and getting a strategic plan and then having a meeting where the boards report to the council.
I like the idea. I like John's idea of maybe like, you know, a tradition of February where, you know, they are either coming in over a couple meetings and we're hearing from them. And that will help inform our own thinking when we get to strategic planning. If that's the order that it should be in, that part of it makes sense to me.
Might have to juggle dates a little bit there, because our capital plan usually is ready in February, for them to review, so if they're here in February, they would be talking about things that happened in the past versus looking forward, so typically those go in March, April sometime.
Whatever makes
So
sense.
before strategic planning.
It might be a deal where we can encourage them to, these board participants, to talk to their neighbors a little bit.
Yes,
You know,
right.
Find out what their neighbors are thinking, find out if their neighbors have issues. Something like that, so they can bring some of that to us as well.
I think that goes along with what a lot of what I was hearing here was the boards as ambassadors. You know, they are educated, they educate themselves, they attend the cleanups and see sort of how Jory is integrating, you know, education on the floodplain, because she really does a great job of that. And how we're getting, I know another aspect of this is that in the cleanups, a lot of young people use that for their volunteer hours, and so they're reaching a younger audience as well. But I think the idea there, again, is this idea that the boards can be great ambassadors and listeners. I like Steve's idea that they can ask their neighbors, what are you thinking about? And it may be that that's already been given a lot of attention, and it's just a matter of making sure people know there's a report, we just did it, you know, and conveying it in a way that is accessible, not just handing them a big thick notebook, but or an engineering report, but something that is accessible.
So Scott, one of the things we used to do on LAB, and I don't know if Mr. Randolph did this, but we had this wonderful person who worked on the lakes, Marissa. And Marissa would get the van, and once a year, we'd drive around, and she'd show us examples of everything, you know, like and why and how it functions. You know, we go out there to buy birds of prey and lift open a manhole cover and see all the stuff in there. You know, we go out to a swale and see what a swale is. So you're getting the eyes on it. You're really learning hands-on what all these things are and what the different areas are and stuff like that. So that to me, that was really educational.
We also not just did the van, but we jumped in a boat and looked at it from the lakeside view.
Oh, wow.
As well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you know, that's taking.
With wine and cheese?
No. No wine and cheese. A Snickers bar, maybe a soda afterwards. But again, I think that's the aspect that you hope that these board members take an active role in their duties and assignments, that they're very interested in what they're volunteering for.
Yeah.
So that they don't just sit back and do nothing, they take an active role. And we did back then. I mean, and maybe we're just unique people that came together at that time point, and we had a common goal of the Lakes Management Plan. But that's what I kind of hope board members are volunteering for this to do, is to get engaged and know more about it and help guide it so that we can have a better lake system.
I think also, you know, what you're describing also takes a certain amount of energy and ingenuity from staff as well, right? So, you know, that you know, we can encourage them to take these kinds of field trips or discussion sessions or what have you. I mean, it's, so I think that's important.
One thing to keep in mind with field trips is those are still subject to sunshine law.
Yeah.
So doing it as a board, and I remember there were a couple that I went on too, and was a trick of them was making sure that the public knew where everybody was going, and that everybody would get to where the field trip was going to, and we'd all stand there until the public had an opportunity to show up, so that we could maintain the public of that public meeting.
What is it best just to do like new members only or something? You know,
One-on-one would be,
yeah.
Far easier.
Yes.
Yeah, 2 or more trips and stuff. Talking about TAB, I think, and I discussed it with Mark today, the number one thing on my mind, and maybe this is part of our strategic planning session, but micromobility. We've discussed it. PD is doing some things about it, trying to educate people, but this is something that's going to affect us, and you know, it's not going to go away. So I think we either need to talk about TAB, a consultant, but we need to start looking at the configuration of our city streets, sidewalks, pathways. How do we accommodate this? What restrictions? I'm not sure where the legislature is on their.
They did not do much. They did not do much. They did not do much substantively. Age, hour, speed around pedestrians, things like that. But
And
there's a lot of problems going on in jurisdictions.
Can't forget the Blue Ribbon Committee.
Yeah. But I think that's stuff that's coming. We've got to be able to.
And that's already going to be on the schedule for TAB. I think the city council's made yourselves perfectly clear that that's something you want them to look at. And we'll approach that first from the public safety standpoint, since the police department's doing most of the research there to give them a base knowledge of education on what it is we're dealing with, and then build on that, ultimately to provide whatever recommendations you would need for the capital plan.
Has that been, the idea of micromobility been put into the MAP study at all, or the MAP 2, or whatever the downtown?
We're making pedestrian improvements, and with pedestrian improvements, it includes all forms of transportation.
Because I would imagine that going forward, I mean, that's going to be standard in all kinds of.
And the MPO is, well, as you saw from the white paper provided, they're leading on this, and they're getting out in communities. We'll be partnering with them on our education campaigns as we do events, as we do things that are addressing those things specifically. We'll be working directly with the MPO and their staff to get that information out there. So
It was kind of my impression that the tipping point was Christmas this year. Everybody got e-bikes or scooters, and it just blossomed. And so, and I know we're not the only city that is seeing this. We just every time you go online and you see the news report, somebody somewhere is doing the crazy stuff. The other day, I was telling the city manager, I was going down Sandspur, and I was doing 25. They got the sign out there, you know, checking speed limit. and I saw in the distance behind me an e-bike, and before I knew it, he was right behind me. And so I'm sure he was clipping along at 30 miles an hour better, and before I knew it, he just jumped over to the pathway.
So I was just in Ponceland, and I'm sure, Drew, you might know about this, but what they've done is they put out the police put out some yard signs, and they've made it that there's a 10 mile per hour speed limit on those big sidewalks they have. And I can't remember the phrase, but they even had a little phrase like, you know, hold your roll or something like that, slow your roll, it's only 10 miles an hour. So they just put out reminder signs along the way to tell people to watch their speed and not do 25. Because I just got back from New York City today, and I tell you what, they have like a bike lane.
No, that's a
and you-
dangerous day.
Yeah, you better remember that bike lane or you're gonna get toppled, man.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I was on the Sanford River walk yesterday,
Yeah.
and so you have to keep your eye out. You know, they're coming up from behind, and they're moving.
So going forward with this, Mayor, what do you think the best way to do this is? To give it to staff to maybe come back with an idea of dates that would be best for the boards to have strategic planning and to address council, or?
Yeah, so, I guess we should probably have some kind of definitional agreement on what strategic planning is, I guess, for that. So, I mean, you know, one thing is the orientation, and I think that's crucial, so you gotta do the orientation. You can do that, you can make that in January thing, right?
When they elect chair and vice chair, first meeting of the year.
The strategic planning session, I guess I was kind of using that analogy of what we do. I wouldn't want to make it too onerous, but I mean, it's up to the discussion of the group, what we think that looks like.
I think a planning session is fine. Let's say strategic planning, but planning
Well,
session.
and don't think that the boards we're not giving things to boards anyway. We have the Stormwater Lakes Master Plan updates, going to be going to lakes this year, so don't be doing that. We got the downtown transportation plan that's happening. We're going to take micromobility to TAB. Parks and Rec we're going to be taking a look at other parks. If you can just tell Jay and I what parks you want to look at for alternate uses, obviously, like Destiny came up tonight, we can provide that as a task directed from the city council. So, they don't have to be standing at a podium for you to give them direction. You can give me direction, I give Jay direction, and it goes to the board, and we can inform them, the council, and ask you to look at these things.
I think just a planning session brings one, a bonding with them so they can say, hey, listen, as a group, I think this is how we want to go. Two is, you can give that to us, but a lot of people here, and I'm sorry, gentlemen, by saying this, a lot of people don't have that information. They haven't been around. They don't have the history of, what are the 22 lakes, what's going on in each lake, and blah, 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 blah. We're the Lakes Advisory Board. That's what they do. So I think it'd be better, maybe for
City
them.
council members all go through an orientation too. Usually, like
Yeah.
city council members, they spend several hours with me, and I spend a lot of time bringing them up to speed on it.
Oh, yeah, each one of us here has been through it.
Yeah.
So, but I think back to it, it's a good way for them, maybe even if it's not the biggest idea, the greatest idea, they get one small little idea, but I think it also brings them together to say, all right, this is a group, let's go for it.
So are you talking about having an annual workshop with the city council
No.
and the board?
No, just the
Okay.
boards to say, hey,
Okay.
listen,
Yeah, what they want to achieve, what they
Okay.
think are their important issues.
Okay.
Yeah.
Once they get the lay of the land in January and they know what their charge is, when you come back in April or whatever, when the CIP is kind of getting more congealed, and they can have a session around, what they would like to do is, what do they feel like their big, I would say goals, maybe objectives, or priorities, their priorities. And then I like the idea of having, inviting them, to come, whatever month that is, if it's April, but yeah, so I guess those would be the three things I think we're talking about. One is the onboarding session in January. Second is kind of a planning and priority session that they can have, that, like Jay could have with the PRAB in April, what are their main issues? Do they want splash pad versus pickle?
Easy, John.
Too soon.
It's a big deal.
But, whatever priorities they might be, whether they want to dig into the park master plan, or whatever. And then we would invite them very cordially to come and present, give them 5 minutes or 10 minutes, whatever they want. And we can make that part of our discussion period, or, whatever works. But that would be subject to whatever, the schedules that come in, whatever is on the agenda that you wouldn't want to make them sit through a bunch of ordinances, because we have to do ordinances first, and we kind of schedule particular.
Adjust the agenda that time to put them up front. Presentations are typically up front.
The city clerk has a question.
Are you going to hold them to coming and giving a presentation, or is there going to be the option for them to kind of make more of a report style and have it funnel up through this board liaison to the third floor to put on? I mean, you do have some interacting with them at the volunteer event that they don't have.
Right.
No, they don't have a desire
I
to.
guess maybe turn down our invitation.
Yeah, well, they can do
Is there another option there?
They can do it if they want. They can do it in writing and give it to Jay to present, or you also have a vice chair. Vice chair can do it. So, or any member.
Yeah.
I don't really care which
I
member.
think we could give them the option, but they give them the invitation circle. I think it's
Yeah. So
probably good for all of us to hear from our boards occasionally. Is that direction? Does somebody need to make a motion on those?
I just want to say, I like your adding of priorities, not just planning and priorities, because,
That was Mark's, but I'll give you the credit.
I think that's
I heard you say it, John.
I like that.
Heard me repeat.
Because I think planning sounds much more, like
Yeah.
you're building something out, you've got to, target, and I think in some cases it is just highlighting the same way we do. This is top of the list, we want to give this our attention, and we want to learn more about it as well, so, yeah, I like that.
And just to add, I think this is a good dialogue about this too. I'm almost going to recommend that we do this once a year as an assessment from the council of how the boards are functioning, and are they actually doing things that we want them to do, but also functioning better.
They are your boards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to figure out how to put this into a motion.
I wouldn't attempt it. I think.
Yeah, I don't think you can.
And so,
Give direction to staff, and I think you have consensus
Yeah.
on what that direction is.
yeah.
Yes, there's the 3 elements, I guess, which is the onboarding, the priorities, and the invitation
Yeah.
to present.
That's what I have. Yep.
Awesome. I want to thank all y'all for this.
So the motion is we're going to keep
Yes. But this is the last thing that I'll be putting on an agenda, so thank you all for entertaining it and kind of addressing it, and I think it was a very valuable piece of our time to do.
I
and-
agree with those.
Yeah, so thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you brought it up. I mean, it's something that needs to be dealt with, and thanks for bringing it up. And making us focus on it. Okay, so we made that decision, and now we're on to reports. Mr. City Manager, any report?
No, sir.
Madam Clerk, any reports?
No, sir.
Mr. City Attorney?
Just one following up, I think from last meeting, the mayor got discussion on the SCPS and Maitland Middle School ball fields. But I have started working on a draft lease-to-own type agreement so that we can use that in those negotiations.
Good, yes, thank you. Okay, council reports, who wants to gush about this weekend? Who wants to take that one?
I was there.
All right.
Friday night was awesome, a great turnout, amazing turnout, great weather. Just the lawn was filled, both stages. I guess people are now bringing chairs and parking them at each. That's the strategy. I didn't know about that. It's a good one. Oh, I just gave it away now. No, it was great. It was amazing.
I was pretty excited, my first time to be VIP.
Yeah.
But anyway, I thought it was a terrific event. It really, really was good. I met, through Jay, I met Lisa from Duke Energy, who's been one of the big sponsors, and one of her remarks, and I thought it really says a lot about what we're doing, just that it was free. It was a free event.
Yeah.
Anybody could. Yeah. Anyway, well done, Jay and group.
And the quality of the music, I have to say, I mean, I was really impressed by the quality of the musicians. I was like, you know, that whole world of musicians lives out there without, you know, they're not on top of Spotify or anything else, but it was top notch. That was great. And so, yes, thanks to, I talked to Tiffany and Jonathan and everybody, and they were very happily working to get that done. I think it was such a great event that they just enjoyed working it. And just please pass along our appreciation for your staff, Jay, and for everything you did in putting that together. Sure will. Okay. Any other councilors?
I've got you on the groundbreaking. I think the staff did a marvelous job on that groundbreaking. And to be able to, you know, control the weather for us was phenomenal. I'm not sure who was in charge of that, Lori. I'm going to put it in your department. But no, I think it was a very impressive, groundbreaking event, and I enjoyed it, and I think everybody did.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to hit on also. That's what I was going to say. Just great, the staff, I mean, the library, A&H, everybody just did a great job making sure this was successful. I thought I find the only place where the tip was kind of dropping water was right behind you, John. You were talking.
Every couple of minutes.
Yeah. It was flash. But that was fantastic. And I just wanted to take a minute and really before, you know, next week, this is really my real last meeting. But I just really wanted to stop and thank everybody here. And I'll say it again, I've said it before, and we've been very lucky that we have a council like this, that we can sit here, even if we don't agree, we can have a conversation, and we really all do get along. We all really do like one another, and through that, it makes it easy to be successful in making decisions and everything. And it's been a pleasure for, you know, the last year to have this council here. So just before we get to that next week, I just wanted to say thank you. And then also afterwards, after I leave here next week, come over to Packwood's Open Bar on my tab. So come on and have a drink with me, because I won't have a sunshine violation. And Drew, I just wanted to make sure I thanked you for what, 8 years through P&Z and everything else, that you've helped me and directed me and kept me out of trouble. So thank you very much, sir. And I'm glad, I want to say that now, because if you're not here in 2 weeks, I know if I called you, I probably would get charged for that call. The city would get charged. So I just wanted to really say thank you, gentlemen. It's been a pleasure. So.
Well, I would say, as a council, at least for myself anyway, well, other council people themselves, but I've been up here with you for 6 years, right?
5 years, yeah.
5 years?
Yeah.
5, right.
Seems like that.
Seems like that. He's got one more to go.
And it was, I mean, you know, not only do you hold up your geographic end of, you know, representing, you know, that part of Maitland, you know, and make sure that everything's under control over there, but you bring a great perspective that, you know, otherwise is not heard on council from a business perspective and a lakes perspective, environmental perspective. So it's been a pleasure serving.
Oh man, back at you. I think the pleasure to serve 5 years with you has just been great, you know. And not to mention that at one time we had 5 lawyers and me up here. That was educational. That really helped me, like, be a better council person. You got to fight that fight against 5 lawyers. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the last lawyer standing.
You are.
Okay.
Well, I know Cliff and Drew counted up in there.
We don't count.
All right.
Only one curmudgeon.
Who's that? You? Who's the
Not
one?
one of us.
Okay, yeah. Right. I did represent us, we had all this, so we had the volunteer event, we had the board event, I mean, the library event, and then we had the Blues Festival, Jazz and Blues Festival, but I also was able to represent Maitland at the opening of the Florida Film Festival last Friday night. So they gave me a microphone, and so I got up and touted Maitland for a couple of minutes, and they gave me the hook, and then that was that. But so, yes, so the Florida Film Festival's going on. Everybody who's interested, it's right down the road there. It's part of Maitland, great part of Maitland. All right, anybody else?
Mayor,
Yeah.
I am attending the Tri-County League of Cities luncheon on Thursday in Castleberry.
Oh, good. Good. I think that we've kind of underutilized that resource. I'm glad you're going with that. I recommend anybody who, you'll still be on council. You can get one more out.
Oh, yeah, get a free lunch.
Yeah. Those are really good. They're really informational. I mean, people are doing the same kind of thing we're doing and kind of learn about it. So I would recommend anybody goes who has a chance. So, good. All right. We're adjourned.